casually show it. They saying, go ahead, put out a project, but my life been a project.
It's Kenny Bowie, and it's a pleasure of doing this. So I spent many years in corporate, even in nonprofit, and now just kind of doing full-time entrepreneur. So, you know, with the DJ, when he reached out, I said, can you give a little bit of presentation about what you do? I said, I would love to, because a lot of time people, we get into the tendency of hyper-focus on our job. And sometimes we talk about a work-life balance, but it's more about work-life harmony. Can you get the best out of it? So purposely, I put people first, and then performance second. And not because, you know, when you say people first, people-centric, we're soft. It's not that intention. But because I spent so many years in corporate, 15 plus, they always focus on what? Numbers, metrics, and then we think that, you know, we are irreplaceable, but we are just mainly a statistic. So today I'm going to share a little bit about, you know, myself and what I do. So very fortunate, right? Come to the U.S. in 1994 as an immigrant, Vietnamese American. Took me 13 years to get my U.S. citizen. Very proud. One of the proudest moments is that I travel a lot in my career. When I was still in corporate, I go to China, I go to Mexico, I go to Germany, I go to Canada. When I say the proudest moment is that when you get back into the U.S. soil and you landed, it doesn't matter, California, Houston. They ask you a couple questions, right? How was your trip? Making sure you don't carry illegal stuff back. But, you know, they always close it out. Welcome home. Welcome home. That is the biggest thing and proud moment of being a, you know, a U.S. citizen. So right now, you know, my career transition to nonprofit, I got to be one of the kind of like the biggest shock, because in corporate it's about, you know, metrics, number, financial, and then nonprofit is about people. The feeling, the emotion, right? You have the objective, now you have the subjective. How can you get the best out of that? So right now I'm still teaching at French University. I've been there since summer of 2016. So I'm teaching supply chain management concentration. So I have about 7 courses. So you kind of see I highlight a couple of things in blue. So that's actually my active kind of job. So I don't have one job, I have multiple jobs. My wife and I, we have a restaurant, Yummy Express, and then we're both realtors, and then we had a franchise. So that's what we do. But with something I want to share with, you know, all of you here. So when I give presentation or people ask me to be a presenter, and I show this one slide, and people have that impression, it's like, well, he never done anything in his life, you know, he had to work hard. His family situation or financial probably very robust. I prove you wrong. So this is a picture. It's not the exact one, but this is the home, back home in Vietnam. This is the home that I grew up with. So there's no silver spoon handing out, right? So the other thing is that, and this is a picture I put in my office everywhere I go. So now as an entrepreneur, you have a lot of meetings, you go out meeting people, and they're actually in my notebook. And why is that? It's a reminder where you're coming from. So this is the first time I've been in shoe in terms of the training room. So one of the things that I observe is that the professionalism, if you look on the wall, right, all of the history, the generation, that didn't happen overnight, right? It took centuries from the start, the time that the founder, right, Mr. Xu founded back in early 1900 to now. That's transformation. And if we don't continue to learn, open our mindset, and improve ourselves, we're going to be in the same place. So that's why I enjoy being an entrepreneur, because I have the ability to connect with other leaders in our community as DJ, and then some of you here today. So let me transition to the next slide. So people first leadership, right? So most organizations say people is their greatest asset, but they manage them like the biggest cost. So I want you to take a moment and kind of reflect on that. If you had in being in corporate, or even if you have a job or multiple jobs, is this true? How much time, training, devotion, caring that your employer put into you? And then, you know, they have the mindset, well, I'm gonna, you know, want you to do this, but what training did you receive? What support did you have? Right? The common problem for every leader is in corporate, right? They over-focus on metrics, KPIs, key performance indicators, and then outputs. right? They hire people and say, you got to go this, we got to hit the number. And then short-term win versus long-term burnout, right? Some people, they do it for financial because they have to support their family. But who really come into a job and say, I love this job because I can make a difference. And typically, you're in a battle. That's why I say the work-life balance, but it should be work-life harmony. Can you still love your job and doing your job effectively while having the time where you're not frustrated, depressed, that it take over your family? So you hear people say, you know, leave everything at work after 5 p.m. But can we do that? I cannot do that. Even though 20 years in the field, profit and nonprofit, and every training that I go through, I still cannot do that because our mind is not wired that way. Disengagement masks as compliance, right? We manage activity rather than develop capability, and then we push outcomes without building people who deliver them, right? So leader, regardless if it is manager or leader, they walk into a room and say, we just need to work smarter, move faster, and hit our numbers. But basically, if I'm telling you guys that, you know, you got to have questions for me. I'm asking, what is the onboarding process like? What is the 30, 60, 90 days and the quarterly development and training? Do they even have like, you know, PMS, performance management system, where there's a lot of coaching, right? There's a lot of mentorship. And most organizations, right, when they talk about people, capability, and performance, they skip the first two and they jump into right performance. Your expectation is you got to hit this number. So as my last job in corporate, I was the global program manager. So I managed multiple sites in India, Japan, and China. So I kid you not, the team of 3, our goal for the entire year was to deliver 57 million in savings. So the prior year, that's during the pandemic. So what we do is we call VAVE, value analysis, value engineering. So basically our team is kind of focused on improving product quality, performance, but cutting the cost. So basically what we did is we go out to the market and we purchase every competitor's component or products that we can find. So we send it to India, we send it to Wuxi, China, and we have cost product team basically kind of tear down every product, measure, weight, getting the price, and that's how we analyze it. So the story is that the prior leadership, they ended up missing the target by 50%. The Hitachi CEO in Japan got let go. The manager that hired me to my last job in corporate got fired. So imagine the fear of during pandemic, right? Somebody hire you in August, and then he got fired in September. The shock, right? So because they go by fiscal year, so by October 1, instead of kind of keeping the goal at the same, they increase it by 15%, which is even higher. And each one of us has to deliver a personal saving of $10 million per head count. So that's mean I have to work with different teams, stakeholder, facility to identify saving. So that's corporate, right? They don't care about your feeling, emotion. So my day basically consists of waking up like 5 a.m., meeting with like the China team at like very early because of the time zone differences, and throughout the day, and come back at 8 p.m. and meet with Japan. That's corporate, I kid you not. And by the time that I left to transition to a nonprofit, instead of hitting 57, we hit 59 million. And there are some practices that I'll share along the way. But because pressure without support, it doesn't create performance. It creates frustration and a disengagement, right? How many times we're in a job, we walk by, if somebody is on a laptop, you see them on Facebook, Amazon, online shopping, and then by the time you walk back, they're still on there. So that's employees' disengagement. And if we don't measure it, because it's translated and transformed into financial loss, right? So when you don't have the right structure within your system, and I say, shield, because if you look on the right-hand wall and you look at their facility, you can see a lot of things. You can see coordination, you can see structure, right? You can see training development, because the one thing that impressed me is that beside everything that I saw is the staff. They greet you with a smile, and they say thank you. And that's hard. That's hard nowadays, right? Even, it doesn't matter how much you pay an employees, if they don't have the right attitude and behavior, your business is ruining. okay? So I talk about people, capability, and then performance. So that's really the core insight of today's presentation, and that's what I want you to get out of it, right? So typically is that here's the common problem that I see in my career, right? So you have a really good employee, and that employee is excellent in what he or she does, hitting the metrics financial each and every year. And then what do we do in terms of senior leadership and owners? We promote that individual to management without asking question. Would you want to become in management? Would you want to be lead people? Would you want to be training, developing them, and get them to a better place? So typically in corporate, they elevate somebody up and say, you manage a team of 6 or 8, and then you get them to perform. Well, that individual may have the characteristic and the skill to perform at a very high level as an individual, but not as a leader. So that's when corporate fell, because they elevate and they promote somebody that will not mentor, train, and develop. So one of the things when I transitioned into a nonprofit, I was hired in as a COO. I started it took 3 months from the time they engaged me to the time that I signed offer letter. It's just a check and balance process, and I can understand. So I was hired in as a CEO to help train, develop, looking at all of the processes and focusing on different systems. We had about 60 plus systems that they don't communicate, right? So imagine your TV at home is a different brand, can't connect to the Wi-Fi, your phone is different, every technology in your house, it doesn't connect or talk to each other. So the complexity is there because we're in a service that provide services and care and support for autism, neurodevelopment. So it's a much needed. But 6 months down in that, so I'm not sure if it is me that's causing the trend, but the CEO resigned. So now there's a gap, okay? So being on at the organization for 7 months, I was asked by the board chair if I would step into the interim president and CEO. So I couldn't say no, I said yes. But a lot of, doubts, hesitation, what does he know, right? He just been with us, for 7 months, and the company, the organization has been around for 90 plus years. But, I didn't let all of the noises and all of the, the accusation, say the assumption that he can't do it. I always step in and I say, these are the 5 things that we're going to focus on until the new president and CEO will come on board. And I emphasize on training and development. So what I found out during my 7 months interim is that a lot of people decided to resign and leave the organization. And why is it? Because of the fear of a new leader coming in. They have no idea what he or she going to be like. Are they going to value me? So I had the opportunity to speak to 5 people that basically resigned. And it's like, what's causing you to leave? You're pretty young. If you have a bright future here. I was like, Kenny, I've been with the company for 5 years, and they have never sent me to like a training. They have never talked about my development or my plan. I'm in my early 20s. I got to build out my career. So as an interim, how do you respond to that? As I acknowledge what you're sharing. I'm going to do better as an interim, and whoever coming in as a CEO, I will support him or her, and we'll make sure that's the number 1 priority of all staff. I only be able to retain 2 out of 5, but that's still at least a 40% instead of we're losing. What companies they don't measure, and people hate data, they hate metrics, and data can be cumbersome. It can cause a lot of headache and issue, but if you know how to analyze and evaluate data, it works in your favor. The other thing that I launched is the employees survey in terms of satisfaction, right? So I had to hire a third-party firm because it's still in COVID. And we only get 47% response out of 500 people. That's not good. People are not speaking up. They're not giving their voice. They're not giving their opinion. But then people say, they come into my office like, why did you waste that kind of money for a survey that you don't get anything out of it? So I asked them, when was the last time that we as a company developed that survey? Oh, we done it 3 years ago. how much respondent did we get? I think it's about 32%. Okay, so 32% prior to the pandemic, and now we're in the middle of pandemic, you get 47%. To me, that's still an improvement, right? So what I found out from that survey is that the other thing, they done the survey, but no one was in charge to review the result, analyze what staff had to say, and then take action. So this creates more frustration, right? And it's further separate management and leadership from staff. So with my survey, of course I'm the data guy, right? That system. And what I found out was that I was asking, why did you want to work with, for this company based on your long-term tenure? And you know what's the pay? At number 4. Number 4. It's not even the top 1 or 2. That's the number 4. I'm here because of our mission and vision and the values. I'm here because of who we serve. I'm here because we're making an impact. This is a nonprofit. As you can imagine, nonprofit, they don't get paid a whole lot, right? So that's why we gotta stop talking about performance all the ways. And we gotta change our mindsets and focus to talk about the people. We gotta start asking, why are you here? Why are they here? And we gotta get to understand them at a personal level, right? We don't ask about personal, but maybe, what do you need? How can I help you? How can I train you? How can I develop? How can I make you a better, individual to promote and serve our mission and vision, right? So people first isn't the opposite of performance. It's how you achieve it. Okay. So this is you guys are the second. DJ had the privilege of seeing this, but this is my new baby. So I'm working on the acquisition of a couple of childcare in Wichita, and to kind of balance out, because as you guys know, childcare is a very difficult industry, right? Turnover, providing consistent high quality of care. And how do we demonstrate it? For somebody has been in corporate 15 plus, and then in the nonprofits less than 3 years, and now full-time entrepreneur. How do I promote the vision and build out a vision like what you guys see on the wall, which at Shield, but then still have that conviction of say we need to perform. We need to achieve certain result in order so I can pay you, right? As an employee, I can develop you, I can reinvest back into the business. So with a little bit of AI help, I developed 2 distinct models. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the conviction. It's more in line with corporate, but I'm not sacrificing my employees, right? And how I balance it out is the kindness model, right? So these are the thing of human, right? Treating people with dignity and respect and value them, reinvest in them, right? Showing compassion and care. And what you see in the middle is that compassionate accountability. We still have to do the things that we do. However, right, we're not going to treat you just like a number or statistic. We value you as an individual, your contribution to the company, and the impact that we will make to the individual that we serve, and the impact to our community. So this is, I'm going to trademark this one, but will become our business model. And this is kind of, I believe it will balance it out pretty well. Once you if you try to be too much corporate, you ended up, not promoting enough of your mission and vision. But if you're too nonprofit side, then you obviously holistically just focus on that mission, and you're missing out on all of the improvements in between that you can done. The processes, the system-wide, the technologies, even AI today. So I think this model will balance out pretty well and help us achieving our vision and mission to be able to serve more in the childcare space. Right? So one key takeaway today that I want to present and share with you guys, right? Treating people with dignity and respect while supporting their growth with development, training, and mentorship will drive sustainable performance. And I kid you not. So one example that I have for you guys is that going back to my last corporate job, as global program VAVE lead, the reason that I found out that team members in different sites didn't hit the result because of they lack the training from leadership. So 2 years ago, prior to me coming on board, corporate they roll out like a project improvement. Have you guys heard of Lean Six Sigma? The DMAIC process. So my former employer, they implement that process throughout worldwide. So they had about 165 employees and 60 plus location worldwide. So they implement the project management tracker called Six Sigma DMAIC process. So through my engagement, if I was that individual of just pushing for numbers, right, and not asking the question whys of understanding, I wouldn't be able to hit that result. So we had team meeting. As you can imagine, in corporate, you have the CEO, you have the president of the business unit, and they had 4 different business units. I was just in the building solutions. And what I found out was that people didn't have the right training. They didn't have the right tool to be able to perform. So when they implemented that software, a lot of project leader or manager, they didn't know how to use it. And who would, in a meeting with the president of the business unit and all of the leader and say, nobody trained me, right, on how to use it. So I invested my time and the dedication to get to know all of the manager at different plants. So my partner and I, we developed comprehensive training videos. We walk them through step by step. Because the one thing about project management and the Lean Six Sigma DMAIC process, there's a gate process in there. So you cannot just go from A to Z and call it done. You have to perform at step 1. You have to prove that you have demonstrated achieving all of the goals and objectives, and you have to get sign off, and then before you can perform to the next one. Well, the problem is that a lot of project managers didn't know how to navigate a system. So that's why when you pull the dashboard out, right, you see everything is red. So that is a big red flag. So instead of confront them, say you didn't do your job well, we took the time and we call each of the individual and say, what's wrong? I noticing that you're working really hard, but the information in the system is not updating. And it took some time to build that trust and relationship, right? Just like in life. And by the time they opened up, it's like, they roll it out. But nobody ever took the time to train us, to update the information in the system. So we took that time. We train them, we work with them, we support them, not criticizing, we support them. We develop training manual and then even videos, and within 6-month time frame, everyone was in the system updating the information. So that's how you transition from Hitachi CEO being fired to meeting and exceeding 100% goal in 12 months. Because we took the time to work with people, understanding and developing them, rather than say, Joe didn't do his job, well, you guys should be looking for replacement. So that's people-centric. So people first is not soft leadership, right? But it's a performance multiplier. Okay, so I think that's in line pretty well with the core value that we have. So the next time you walk into your office or workplace, don't think about the numbers. Don't think about the metrics, right? The outcomes. And we got to stop asking, how do I get better performance out of people? And we start asking about, how do I become the kind of leader people perform for? Okay. One of the things that, I try to build I wouldn't call it legacy, but it's just the easiness for people to work with. And sometimes I think we take things for granted, right? We say, yeah, he's not strong enough to make decisions. He don't have any vision. He don't have any, mission. He works with everybody, but that's part of life. That's balance, right? Somebody doesn't have like an education degree. It doesn't mean you look them down, right? You try to get to know them. You try to develop them, because we are as human, right? That's all value. And the one thing that I differentiate myself from any leader is that I take the time to devote, to work with people, right? I think the movie with Brad Pitt is a Moneyball, where he's coaching a team of baseball player. I love that movie because it sticks with me so well, right? Because, a lot of corporate, they have this structure, right? 15, 15, 70. So the top 15% is always the A, the next 15 is the B, and then the C is obviously the 70%, right? They always try to develop, promote, try to get them elevate up into the A, the B, or the A's. But that movie is like, as long as you have the right mindset, you don't need the best of the best. You just have to take the time to understand the people true value in terms of strength and maximizing them. You're going to get some result. Because if you hire all of the same people, you're not complementing them, right? You're not leveraging the ability to collaborate. So, I have people say to me all the time, it's like, your leadership is too soft. Well, it's not too soft when I get the result. And people want to be working with me, right? And I just kind of started my entrepreneur path about, the last 2 years. But the greatest, satisfaction that I found out and come out is that, people tell me, if you ever started a company, it doesn't matter what I do, I will come and work for you. The other part is that, people want to collaborate. Kenny, what are you working on? Can I be a part of that? How can I contribute to what you do to make it successful? I think for me, that's the greatest satisfaction because, beside money, the time, right? And what can you give back to the community in terms of people, right? So everything that I've done, I've been on, currently actively on 3 nonprofit boards. I'm still teaching, I'm still mentoring. Nobody asked me to do it. I'm not doing it for my resume on LinkedIn because that's who I am. I value people. I don't want to give back. I want to make this place a better place. And the other part is I love this country. Imagine being born in a communist country. I think if our family didn't have the privilege to come over, I probably think I would still be like a taxi driver. Because that's slow development, right? Not a lot, in terms of the government doing that. It's just sad, and I think that's my everyday reflection. Enjoy, don't take things for granted because you find it weird. One of my motivation in life is that, people ask me, well, you're doing a lot of things. How can you stay focused? How can you manage your time? What motivates you, right? So beside my family, big family and little family, sometimes I'm on social media, right? I look at Facebook. I see, on YouTube. How it motivates me? I just look at a couple of videos about, the individual that's less fortunate than me, that's still living in hardship. And that's my view, that's my motivation in life. If I'm here today, what am I complaining about? If I have the ability to wake up tomorrow and still breathing, and still get to see my family, my wife, and my mother, which is 86, the day is full of energy to be able to achieve whatever you want. And sometimes we take things for granted. One of the things that I come into, working as a consulting now, a lot of entrepreneurs, right, they had an idea or ideas. And say, I want to be rich, and I want to be rich fast. How am I going to do it? Well, I'm sorry, there's no shortcut. There's no shortcut to be an entrepreneur. And the downside to that is that, you have ideas and you want to be rich, that's fine. But they're not disciplined enough. They're not disciplined enough in terms of staying motivated, staying dedicated. Sometimes every day is a hustler. There's nothing harder than being an entrepreneur, right? Because you don't have the luxury of waking up tomorrow if we're still breathing and say, I don't feel like doing this today. I don't feel like going out and have that meeting. I don't feel like going out and making that phone call. That's the lack of discipline, right? And people. So yesterday I was busy all day working on a report and providing updates. And yesterday I guess SpaceX, right? They launched IPO. And you see on social media, and that's why I tend to disconnect myself from social media because it can get into your head. And people are like, You know, Elon Musk, he's the first trillionaire. Shouldn't he be paying for all of the people that's living in poverty and underprivileged? Well, imagine a couple years ago when he had the third or the fourth failures, who was coming in and helping him, right? He had to taught himself to be the chief engineer and try to figure things out. So sometimes that's the hardest part about life. When you're not successful, people look down on you. When you're somewhat successful and have a little bit of financial, they become jealous. So how do you manage? How do you manage all of the noises, all of the haters, right? For me, it been gone long, long ago. So that's what I do, the people that I help, going back to my family, and that's it. So the last question is that who on my team needs me today? Because if you care about your people, they will in turn care about you. And their behavior, attitude, and performance will demonstrate that. Okay? You don't need to be a leader to start making an impact. Every process you touch, every problem you solve, every improvement you make, no matter how small, moves you closer to excellence, but always put people first. Okay? So challenges is simple. Learn and implement people-first leadership. That's how transformation begins, one step at a time. Okay? Okay.